Oh, Captain, my Captain. It really does never get old. I love that saying. It's just fantastic. This is our DFS Showdown slates for Super Wildcard Weekend here at Club Fantasy. I, Josh Hudson, am hosting, and on your right of the screen, right,
Yeah.
I always get the damn directions. I'm very directionally declined, as I like to say. But Austin over here, he is our DFS maestro here with Club Fantasy, not to be confused with Miss Kelly Singh herself, who is tackling golf DFS at the moment. So, Austin, how you doing today, buddy?
Doing good. I am very intrigued about the game that we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, so for those that can't read a title, we're talking about the Dolphins versus the Chiefs. You'll notice some other videos dropping over the next day or two. We're previewing the Browns versus Texans, the Packers versus the Cowboys, the Rams versus the Lions, the Eagles versus the Bucks, and the Steelers versus the Buffalo Bills. Man, good slate of games this Super Wild Card weekend. A lot of fun little narratives. And of course, the Dolphins versus the Chiefs. The narrative at the top, Tyreek Hill versus his former team, the Chiefs. You'll love a good narrative. But before we get into all of that, Austin, remind everybody, they can come play these DFS Showdown slates with us.
Yes, you can. And this is one of the slates that we will be offering in our DraftKings and FanDuel leagues. That's what they're called. They're called leagues. We'll be having the Miami Kansas City game as one option, the Los Angeles Detroit game, because how can you not watch that game, and the Philadelphia Tampa Bay game. So even if you're Josh and you're pulling for the Eagles, you're gonna maybe at least make some money off of them losing, which is I'm just gonna call my shot. Or
Yep.
you can just get that little happiness hedge. So it'll all be good.
Yeah, I live in the Tampa Bay area. I have zero desire to go to this game. None at all. Not even a little bit. But fun little topics here. Little segments that we dove up to kind of fit the theme of the captains and riding the waves of the sea. This is Captain Chalk. Yes, the chalky captain that everybody is likely to pick because that player is just that damn good. And Austin, I mean, how do we not start with the cheetah?
Yeah. So I have to preface, I don't like this captain play in this situation. So Tyreek Hill, he is probably going to be the player that most people target in their captain slot.
It's the revenge game, Austin. The revenge game.
It is the revenge game, and that's the argument for. So I'm going to give the argument for. You have to stick around to the end of the show for the argument against Tyreek Hill as captain. The argument for is that it's Tyreek Hill. Like he could easily dominate this game, score 30, 40 points, have 200 yards, a touchdown, 2 touchdowns even. The world is his oyster. Like there's no limit to what Tyreek Hill can do in this game. It's a revenge game narrative. It's fun to pull for. I think a ton of people are going to do it, but stick around for a reason to maybe slow your roll with going all in on Tyreek Hill as your captain in every lineup.
Well, you bring up captains. With every captain on a ship, there's bound to be a mutineer. And these would be the contrarian captain choices that offer a little bit of variety and some upside in some of these larger tournaments. And Austin, because you clearly are not a huge fan of wanting to actually play the chalk in your captain spot, Mr. Mutineer himself, who you going with, buddy?
So there's this guy that I just discovered recently because he started dating Taylor Swift, and that's Travis Kelce. No, jokes aside.
Austin, you're a Swiftie.
Is anybody really shocked? No, I love Travis Kelce in this spot. Nobody's going to want to play him. That's the thing that I love. I whenever I play showdown slates, I end up focusing more on the game theory aspect of it than the player take side of it. And so I like the fact that nobody's going to want to put Travis Kelce in their captain spot. He had a week off to get healthy. I think he's been playing through injury this year, and that's part of the reason he's been slower. And he can get 4 touchdowns in any given game. And I don't care how bad this offense has been this year. He can still pop off for 4 touchdowns on any given week. And frankly, I've been playing him like every week in DFS, just waiting for it to turn around because I believe that at some point the regression is going to pop back the other way and we're going to see the Travis Kelce of old. I think this is a great spot for him to smash against a Miami defense that is beat up right now.
Yeah, they are massively beat up. And we all know how much fun Jalen Ramsey has playing against Travis Kelce. So I'm very curious to see how often those two are going to be lined up against one another. But Austin, you have another Kansas City Chief. Safe to say that outside of Tyreek Hill, you're probably not playing very many Miami Dolphins. But talk to us a little bit about Rashee Rice.
Yeah, I am probably relying heavily on Kansas City this week. And with Rashee Rice, it's mostly just about the target volume. Like he's been getting the targets in this offense when Travis Kelce hasn't. He's also started to get some down the field usage, which is what's intriguing to me. We saw 2 weeks ago when they played Cincinnati, he nearly broke free for like a 60 plus yard touchdown and just couldn't outrun the defender he was with. So that was a little disappointing to see, like he doesn't quite have that speed, but the fact that they were trying to target him downfield and really push the ball was a promising sign, and it's something that I'm looking forward to watching in this game. So I like the safe floor and the potential upside with how he's getting utilized.
Yeah, I love me some Rashee Rice. Xavier Howard, I believe, is also banged up a little bit as well. So that's obviously it's going to be pick your poison, right? Like if Xavier Howard ends up missing this game and all they have is Jalen Ramsey, do they end up putting Ramsey more on Kelce or Rice? I honestly think it may be Rice, but Ramsey tends to just play on one side of the field also. So it'll be curious to see if Vic Fangio maybe switches that up a little bit with all of the injuries along that defensive front. But next segment here is the first mate, because every captain needs a reliable crew. These are the standouts that help maximize your lineup. Let's start. You got some running backs on this list, Austin. Let's keep the Chiefs theme going here with Isiah Pacheco.
Yeah, I am a fan of Isiah Pacheco in this spot. He just continues to get consistent usage. The thing is, he feels like a boomer bust running back to me in general. And I don't mean that necessarily from week to week. I just mean from play to play. Like he feels like he's either going to get 1 or negative yards or pop off an 8 to 10 yard game. And that's just kind of what you get with Isiah Pacheco. He's a little bit of a chaotic runner. He doesn't have the best vision in the world, but Kansas City continues to rely on him. And he, it used to be that when they were at the 4-yard line, it was Travis Kelce all day. Pacheco started to get some usage towards the goal line, and that makes me stay interested in him from the touchdown perspective. I probably won't go overboard trying to get Isiah Pacheco in all of my lineups, but I think having him here and there is a fine option. Another great option on the Kansas City side, I think it's just Harrison Butker. With how volatile the Kansas City offense has been, I could see them ending up driving down the field and falling short and having to kick several field goals throughout the game. And we've seen that. I mean, we saw last week that they relied on the field goal to win that game. And honestly, it wouldn't shock me if they won this game and Harrison Butker kicked 3 or 4 field goals just because of how good their defense has been this year.
I was going to offer up a counterpoint to that. Patrick Mahomes versus Blaine Gabbert. Like, that's probably why those drives were stalling. But let's be real here. Patrick Mahomes hasn't really looked like Patrick Mahomes this year either. And he only threw for, I believe it was 185 yards against Miami in this was the Germany game. I mean, maybe you can, pinpoint the lack of offense in that particular game on just the jet lag perspective side of things. But I mean, these two offenses, they really haven't looked great. Miami has struggled against, winning teams, and Kansas City has just struggled, period. So, it almost feels like a kicker and a running back type of game, in all honesty. But let's talk a little bit about these Miami running backs, because Raheem Mostert's missed the last couple of games. So we've been able to see some of these other running backs get going. Seems like Mostert's going to play. Which of these guys do you favor based on price anyway? Because there's some interesting prices here.
Yeah, so I still favor Raheem Mostert. I just feel like he has the best chance of getting in the end zone. But I think regardless, picking one of the Miami running backs that you feel good about is fine. Like whether it's Achane or Raheem Mostert, I don't feel like there's a clear right or wrong decision. I think it's sort of you have to go with your gut and pick one because this backfield continues to be sort of unclear who is going to consistently be the number one on any given week. And you can lean into that in these showdown slates and pick the one that you think has the best opportunity to pop. I'm going with Mostert for the opportunity to score touchdowns, but I could see you making another argument.
Yeah, for what it's worth, both of these run defenses, have been pretty good against the run this year. Both Miami and Kansas City allow 3.8 yards per carry or less over the last 4 weeks. So at the end of the day, really what you're hoping is one of these guys score touchdowns, or, just pivot to the kicker. You could always do that too. Next segment here is going to be the deck scrubbers. These are the cheap punt plays that make a lineup based on one play or limited opportunity. And I think there's definitely some opportunity here because you obviously have Jalen Waddle likely to miss this game for Miami, which is going to open up a lot of opportunity for some of those options. I don't know who the hell wants to catch passes in Kansas City because it hasn't been Travis Kelce of late. And every other wide receiver is pretty damn cheap. So, Austin, give me some options here.
Yeah, I was tempted to go the Marquez Valdes-Scantling route, but he's
the cheapest one. I don't blame you.
It's very appealing, and I would not be mad. I would not be mad. I will probably fall in the trap of having him in my lineup at some point, but I think Justin Watson and Noah Gray are better options for that punt play on the Kansas City side today, this week. Justin Watson, he's just been the most consistent auxiliary player this year. There were times where I was like, is he about to be the wide receiver 2 in this offense? And it was very fascinating throughout the season. He gets targets down the field. He gets open. So I think the opportunities can be there, especially if guys like Jalen Ramsey and Xavier Howard, if he plays, are focusing their energies on Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce. Noah Gray, I can never stop loving Noah Gray. I'm always pulling for him to do well. The issue is that he is a borderline trap, a borderline kraken, alluding to our next segment. I think Noah Gray is a better play in larger fields because he could go 1 for 13 and that's it. He could also go
could be a touchdown though.
Right, exactly. So he could go for 113 and a touchdown, and then that's pretty good, especially if this ends up being a low scoring game, similar to what it was when these teams met in week 9. My last pick for this segment, though, on the Miami side is Cedric Wilson, because Jalen Waddle most likely sits out in this game. Cedric Wilson has been the next man up in that perspective, although Durham Smythe is also an interesting name to throw out on this front because he has been getting more usage as Jalen Waddle has been hurt. I'm not touching Chase Claypool, so that's why I'm throwing Cedric Wilson out here as if you want to.
The football's not touching Chase Claypool either. So
yeah, it's not. So I like Cedric Wilson in this spot, but could also see you going with Durham Smythe.
Yeah, like the Durham Smythe call, 172 receiving yards over the last 4 games, and he's largely been a complete unknown. This offense has not really looked the way of the tight end, but again, injuries have kind of made that a necessity. I do want to go back to the point about the Kansas City wide receivers, though, because you can scoff all you want at MVS, right? Marquez Valdes-Scantling on DraftKings, 1.2K.
Yeah.
The next closest wide receiver is Mecole Hardman at 2.6K, who hasn't done jack squat for this team. So why is he more expensive? Kadarius Toney, 3.6K. And then you get up to Richie James and Justin Watson at 4 and 4.4 respectively. You could do a lot worse than a punt play of MVS when it comes to salary.
And if you take the regression route and say, look, he's missed 2 or 3 down the field targets this year, what happens if they all pop this week and he ends up going 2 for 102 touchdowns?
That could very well be the case. But speaking of all of that, hey, if I'm going to play MVS and you think I'm a freaking idiot, come play with us. You can hit the links in the description to play against us in FanDuel or DraftKings, and then come take my money because I'm the idiot that decides to put Marquez Valdes-Scantling in my showdown lineup. So with that, things that will ultimately sink the ship, a la MVS, this would be the Kraken. These are the lineup traps that ultimately sink your steered boat, large ship, yacht, whatever you want to call it. And Austin, you alluded to this. Tyreek Hill is a captain, man. I don't know. Maybe it's a trap.
Yeah, I think it's a risky play, especially in large field tournaments. First off, if everybody's going to be playing him, it's going to be hard to get leverage on the field that way. So I don't love it from a game theory perspective. But more importantly, when these teams played in week 9, Tyreek Hill only scored 13 and a half DraftKings points. He was held to just 62 receiving yards, no touchdowns. You could say, okay, if he scores a touchdown in that game, it's better. Sure, that's fine. He's scoring 20 points, but if you want him in your captain spot, he needs to be popping off. He needs to be getting at least 100 yards. He needs to be getting 8 to 10 catches and at least a touchdown. And I think the L'Jarius Sneed shadow could actually impact him in this game. I think as much as Tyreek Hill is going to want to prove to Kansas City that he didn't need them, Kansas City is going to be wanting to prove to Tyreek Hill that they are just fine without him. So
I won a Super Bowl last year without him. So
yeah, so I think it's going to be an interesting battle, and I could see Tyreek Hill sinking your ship just because he might not be able to get there, given all the attention he'll get.
One thing I want to point out about Tyreek Hill, he's had some really bad drops the last few weeks of the season, like drops that could have swung the game in Miami's favor. And I know he's been getting hurt quite a bit. Like, I don't know if it's the knee or the ankle that's been bothering him. But every time he gets hit, you can kind of see him like sort of grimacing a little bit as he gets up. He's toughing it out at this point. So, again, especially based on salary, whether it's to get him in the lineup or even get him as a captain, it feels very, very risky.
Yep. I am definitely feel that way, especially with him being banged up. But another player that I think is a trap is none other than the OG trap himself, Clyde-Edwards Helaire, who trapped us all into drafting him as a first round pick.
No. Don't lump me into that conversation. It was JT all the way.
Yeah. So I don't feel good about his usage. I say this, he'll probably end up catching a touchdown, but I don't feel like I can ever predict CEH, and he feels too volatile to me. I think it's going to be an Isiah Pacheco week. I don't want to touch CEH in my lineup this week. I'd rather look for the receivers, especially given the fact that you're already going up against a tough run defense. I'd rather look at the number 1 running back and not try and get cute with one of the backups.
Love it. That is Austin at Austin_FFL. I am Josh Hudson at the One Hudsonian. You can also follow Club Fantasy across the socials at Club Fantasy FFL. The URL clubfantasyffl.com. If you have stuck around to watch this video at any point, hit that like, hit that subscribe. It costs literally nothing, means the world to us. We greatly appreciate it as we continue to try and grow this page. We'll see you for the next video.